This is a Montie moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano, getting you ready for week 5 in the college football season after a thrilling, exciting, and for me, heartbreaking last Saturday in college football. But we have a lot to look back at, a possible interesting development in the 12-team college football playoff model, which starts next season, and some great matchups to look ahead to for this week, including 4 head-to-head top 25 matchups. But before we get to that, let's just go over quickly the top 25 poll as we get you set for week number 5. Obviously, Colorado falling out of the rankings after their first loss, that massive defeat at the hands of Oregon, which unfortunately I fell for the trap and took Colorado plus the points in that one. But Dan Lanning's squad there just put a beat down on him. I don't know how much the loss of Travis Hunter was a factor there for Colorado. Just Oregon, just too good. I mean, they've been running up the score on a lot of teams early on this season, and now Colorado will have a very cool test coming up this Saturday at home, an early start time, 12 noon Eastern, a 10 a.m. Mountain Time start there against USC. We're not going to pick that game, and I'll get to that in just a second, but I'm going to be interested to watch that game at home, see if Deion's boys can make it kind of interesting. I mean, they're again fetching a huge number in that one. I'll touch base on that in a second. That won't be one of our 3 picks, but I will bring up that game in just a moment. But we've got that. Ohio State did move up 2 spots to 4 after they did defeat Notre Dame in a heartbreaking way, 17-14 with 1 second left there on Saturday night. I got to tell you, though, you know what? Notre Dame squad, I mean, what Marcus Freeman's done here in his second year, now that he's got a sound quarterback there in Sam Hartman, I mean, I know it's probably only going to be for 1 year, but Notre Dame hung with them. And I'll tell you what, I thought Notre Dame had a very, very good chance early on in this game. Despite the fact they missed a field goal, Ryan Day's squad goes down there in late first half, and instead of getting 3 points, decides to go for it on 4th and short at the goal line, and just a horrible play call. And I thought Notre Dame had a chance, and they hung in there throughout, but at the end of the day, just a heartbreaking way with only having 10 guys on the field there late, and Ryan Day's squad, it survives and advances. And you know what? As far as Notre Dame goes, look, I mean, as far as them, you want to talk about them as a playoff team. Yes, they still have a chance, but they need a lot to go their way now because, now a one-loss team without a conference tournament under their belt, and it's not looking quite favorable for them. So valiant effort, and you know what? Right there, you go right back at it this week. They got a huge game at Duke, which I know College Game Day is going to be there. And you know what? This is not going to be an easy matchup there against Duke, who's got a great program there this year. We'll see. I would give Notre Dame a slight advantage, but I'll tell you, I think that game's going to be really, really close over there on Saturday night. The other thing to look at here, too, as we get you ready for week 5, we all know that next year is the 12-team playoff in college football. And originally, the proposal was for 6 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 6 highest-ranked teams, which would be a model designed to reward the Power 5 champions and the top group of 5 winner. Well, now with the Pac-12 not going to be there in shambles and going to be pretty much gone next season, you have AAC Conference Commissioner Mike Orozco saying that they may have to think of something, a 5 highest-ranked team conference champions with the new 12-team playoff. He spoke to a small group of reporters following the first day of CFP meetings at the Big Ten headquarters, and he didn't talk about the future format, but likely to on Wednesday. And the current proposal, as I said, 6 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 6 highest-ranked teams. But now with the Pac-12 being decimated, now they got multiple sources have indicated to ESPN that there is a strong preference to change the model to 5 plus 7, meaning the 5 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 7 highest-ranked teams. So that could give, a second Big Ten, second or third Big Ten. Maybe it favors an independent school like a Notre Dame, because Notre Dame in a 12-team playoff, you could talk about them this year. But that'll be something to watch here, because originally this talk would have been with the Pac-12 champion, but obviously with no Pac-12 left, and you need 8 schools really to be considered in that regard, and the Pac-12 is not going to have that next season. So something to watch there as those meetings are going on in the Midwest. So we get you ready here for a very good slate of Week 5 games. We have 4 matchups of top 25 teams, and we're going to pick 3 of those in our selections. We had a very good week last week. We went 4-1 against the spread with Brody helping us out. And again, big thanks to Brody Sobera for jumping on last week. We'll have him on again later on this season as well. But we went 4-1 against the spread, which does take us to 10-7 on the season as we get you ready here for week number 5 in college football. And we're going to do something a little bit different also this week. We're actually going to pick a game that's happening on Friday and then 2 Saturday games. And the game and this one really jumped to my attention when I was trying to pick 3 for you this week. And that starts Friday night at 9 Eastern out west. A Pac-12 matchup here between 10th ranked Utah and 19th ranked Oregon State. And the reason why this caught my attention is that Oregon State, the Beavers, are the 3.5-point favorites. The first ever meeting with both teams ranked. We've talked about this a lot with Utah this year. Cam Rising, the quarterback coming back from injury last year. If he's back under center for the Utes, that changes everything. But I just don't think – it does not sound like he's going to be playing. It sounds like we're going to see more of Nate Johnson, who's done all right. But if you want to talk about Utah winning their 3rd consecutive Pac-12 title, you need Cam Rising back there. And even if he does come back and somehow play this game on Friday, we don't know how effective and how rusty he's going to be just because he's been out for so long. But this is such a tough call with this spread, and it's a game that really I should stay away from, but it's a game that I want to pick just because it's strange to see that the 10th ranked team, the higher ranked team, is actually getting points. But I think a better play, if you wanted to take a play in this game, would be to take the under. But the Utes defense has been the big story for them this year. They wrecked shop against UCLA's front last week, collecting 8.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. You had defensive end Jonas Ellis being an absolute terror, racking up 10 tackles, 5 for loss, and 3.5 sacks. I just don't see them, though, being able to do that against this Oregon State front. And we've seen enough of DJ Uiagalelei, the transfer quarterback there, to know that he's not perfect. But he is a capable signal caller who can run this offense effectively. And he's got a big arm. He's got decent athleticism. He's a rushing threat. And he's got the advantage of playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the nation. So this is a line, when you look at it, that would be begging you to take Utah, especially with their defense. But when you look at them coming into this one, they could be without their top 2 QBs, their top 2 running backs, and their top tight end. They've been able to scrape by this season, but now hitting the road against a balanced Oregon State team that is coming hungry off of its first loss last week, that'll be playing in front of a wild environment at Reser Stadium, and it's their first home game, which the students are back. I'm going with the Beavers in game number 1. So I'm taking Oregon State minus the 3.5 because also this is a line that I think is begging you to take Utah. So more often than not, when that is the case, I go the other way. So give me Oregon State minus the 3.5, which you can say is an upset and not, in game number 1. That is on Friday night. On the Saturday slate, I was originally looking at the USC and Colorado game. Again, the reason why is I'm very curious to see how USC is going to play in an early slot. Now, we know next year they're going to be playing in the Big Ten, so they'll have some very early games probably if they have to travel across the country. I'd be very curious to see if the schedule makers try and give them an advantage and play those games later on in the day. But if they have to play a 12 noon Eastern kickoff in the middle or going out east, that'd be a 9 a.m. start there. This would be a 9 a.m. Pacific time start, 10 o'clock Mountain time in Colorado. But I just don't think I'm going to do it. If I had to take a play in that game, I would take USC laying the points because as much as we talk about USC, in years past, we've talked about USC's defense being a problem. Well, their sack total this year, and with the amount of times that Shedeur Sanders has been sacked there for Colorado, I think USC is going to run big over them. I do expect Colorado to play better than it did last week. The fact that they're in their own building helps. The fact that it's an early start time and that USC has to travel, I think helps. But I just think USC is also too good as well and doesn't take anything away from what Colorado's done this year. Look, I still think when you look at the end of the day, I think Colorado, which came from a one-win team last year to possibly being on pace to make a bowl game, this is still the story of the year in college football. And when we look back at 2023, I think right now they are a top 3 story in all of sports. That's how amazing Deion's crew is done. But I think they're going to be in for another reality check. But I'm just not comfortable picking that game. But what I am going to do at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday is I'm going to pick another top 25 matchup. This is 24th ranked Kansas taking on the 3rd ranked Texas Longhorns. And yes, this is a big number. Texas is favored by 16.5. a battle of undefeated teams. And the last time that Kansas went to Austin, they did shock everybody and upset Texas in a shootout. But this Longhorns team is in a completely different position right now. They're one of the best defensive teams in the Big 12. We've seen quarterback Quinn Ewers produce on the big stage. Just look what he did in Alabama a couple of weeks ago. And it's not saying that the Jayhawks and Jalen Daniels haven't done a good job this year, but I just don't see them being able to keep pace with this Texas team. The one thing I would worry about with the Longhorns in this matchup is possibly looking ahead to next week when they do meet Oklahoma in the last Big 12 edition of the Red River rivalry. But at the end of the day, this Texas squad is legit. It is for real. We will be talking about them in the college football playoff throughout the season, and I think they get the job here. And now this number's come up a half a point. I think it helps, too, if they do win by 17. So game number 2, take the Longhorns minus the 16.5 there in Austin. And game number 3, looking at a team that's trying to bounce back, a team that has bounced back, and that is 13th-ranked LSU taking on 20th-ranked Ole Miss. Ole Miss coming off that loss to Bama. LSU, which has rebounded nicely since their opening week loss against Florida State. Little surprised about how low this line is, and it's another reason why I'm actually more comfortable in taking LSU in this one. And, you know, they've had their share of struggles against Arkansas, but the offense for the Tigers has been explosive. You know, Ole Miss couldn't get anything going against Alabama offensively, and though LSU is a better matchup for them, I just don't trust this Rebels defense very, very much. LSU is the deeper, more talented team, and another reason to doubt Ole Miss in this matchup, their well-documented history against Nick Saban is followed by an equally as well-documented struggle against teams that almost have to play the week after they play the Tide. So give me LSU, the Tigers, Brian Kelly's squad to win, even by a field goal is good enough. We'll take them, win, and cover. So we're going with 3 favorites here in this week. We'll take Oregon State minus 3.5 against Utah on Friday. On Saturday, we'll take the Longhorns laying 16.5 against 24th-ranked Kansas. And then Saturday evening, we'll take LSU minus 2.5 at 20th-ranked Ole Miss. So some great top 25 games. Obviously, I'll also be paying attention to see if Alabama can, who did have a big win last week, if they can keep it going. The big game also Saturday night, Notre Dame, 11th-ranked Notre Dame against 17th-ranked Duke there in North Carolina. You know, under the lights, we saw what Duke did against Clemson. I think this game is going to be very, very close. If I had to put a wager on that, I actually would take Duke plus 5.5. I think Notre Dame would win, but I think it's going to be very, very close. But we'll see how Notre Dame bounces back after their first bit of adversity here in 23. But you've got some great matchups. And again, with how college football's looked this year, I mean, Florida State, I don't know. I like them a lot, but they did struggle a little bit against Clemson. The only time they led was at the very end there, and I think it also speaks to more how much Clemson has fallen too. But I don't know if the way they're playing, if they're going to stay in the top 4. So we've got a lot to look at here, even as we start to get ready to turn the calendar to October. Every week in college football, it means so much more. And, of course, we will keep you updated here because things are going to change week after week after week. And it's not only how you win. I mean, it's not only winning, but it's how you win that the committee looks at as well. So a lot to look at here as well. If you like all the college football, you'll definitely love the NFL. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern for week 4 of Football Friday. And, you know, you think college football is unpredictable, where we think it's Georgia and everybody else, but who knows? The NFL is totally unpredictable. So we'll talk a lot about that coming up on Friday. And, of course, we'll see you back here next week for more Monty Moments as well. For more, like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameOnETB, on Instagram at GameOn_ETB. You can follow me on Twitter or X, wherever you prefer, at Montalbano NY, and also on Instagram as well. You can check us out at youtube.com/ETB Network, where if you like our Monty Moments and all of our content, leave us a like. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and make sure your notifications are all set so you know when all of our content will be out there. And you can also check us out at etbpodcast.com. You can get great content there from all of our contributors, including Brody Sorbero, who we had on last week, and we'll have him back on again in October. And if you can't watch us on YouTube, you can check us out on the go wherever you get your favorite podcast. Download, and you can catch us on the go. So enjoy the big college football Saturday. It's going to be another great one. I'll see you back here next week. This has been a Monty Moment, and I'm Johnny Montalbano.